Hello and welcome to Colleague 7 Sprint Review for 20.03.02. This will cover the work undertaken between the 17th of March to the 30th of March. Our sprint goal for this sprint has been to update the login page with a feed to update users of any delivered changes or pending updates regarding Colleague 7. Looking at the high-level items and to explain further, in this sprint, we've been able to update the login page of Colleague 7 so that it contains a new sliding feed. This will provide updates to users, inform them of changes, pending updates, known issues, future maintenance, any services which may be of interest, and in general, any blog posts with regards to the product, which could include news and integrations and other roadmap-based information. We've delivered an additional component to our API to allow for the search and retrieval of requirement records. We fixed an issue so that the sequencing order is retained when deleting rates. This had a knock-on effect when creating a timesheet. We've also updated the timesheet form to provide total units. We've added a global setting against the contact section on whether the primary company address is allocated to a contact when it's created. We've implemented a new send-to-printer approach for list invoices. We've ensured when sending a meeting request that if you have multiple participants attending, that it is sent as one meeting request and not the same meeting request multiple times per recipient. And as part of enabling users with the ability to generate templates to accommodate IR35, although that was delayed during the course of this sprint, an additional merge field has been added to the placement. This will contain the selected rates from the pay-as-you-earn margin calculator and allow you to send a templated letter or email containing the rate reductions a contractor can expect. We'll now go through a brief demonstration on the key features from this sprint. So the first point to go through, and it's unusual that I would start a demonstration on the login page, but ultimately this area has been updated as part of this sprint, and that's the new sort of dynamic slider view format that we have for the left-hand image that is shown on the login page of Colleague 7. So this is now going to be used as a mechanism for relaying information to the end users. It grants them access to things like the roadmap, our customer satisfaction survey, our release notes and maintenance schedule, but also in future, as we advise of services, as we advise of perhaps known issues, and any kind of mechanism where we need to relay things to the end user. This can be used as another channel in which we can do that. We've obviously got the notifications for advising when upgrades have been taking place, and we've got the mailing list for sending out emails, but we wanted another way of ensuring that each user, when they log into the system, can be relayed information if necessary. So this is basically that update. So that's part of update. Part of this sprint, it's the login page that you're seeing here, the dynamic slider views. Next point to cover is a fairly minor one, and that's when creating a timesheet or editing a timesheet. There is now a total units row associated against each of the rate columns. So as you go through entering a timesheet and you're specifying the specific units against each of the days associated to the rate, you'll see under the total units row is that against each rate it's being totaled up there. And that gives you just then a full picture of the associated total units against each rate for timesheet processing. So that's the update we made there. The next point to go through is just in relation to the work that was needed for IR35. Ultimately, IR35 was delayed during the course of the sprint by a year, but in any case, we wanted to deliver this work regardless so that it's ready for whenever it is necessary. So ultimately, and it has value anyway, in truth. So when you are in a contract-based placement and the candidate has a payment method of pay-as-you-earn, when you're in the basic tab and you're looking to calculate the margin, what you're able to also get through are additional placement rates, which you can set up within the admin area under lookups in placement rates. And from here, you can select those additional placement rates that you want to establish as deductions against the contractor when you're processing for the purposes of processing pay. And from there, you can calculate your margin. So on the basis of calculating that margin, what you can now do And that was all functionality that was already existing in the system. But what you can now do is specify those rates that have been deducted from pay as part of a merge field within the system. So that's within here under merge fields, you've got an option here called pay as you earn rates. So to give you an idea from the perspective of a template, if you were to send a template, something along the lines of this, where you specify basically the details of the placements, what you can do, and if I hit preview, what you can do is obviously pull through in the pay-as-you-earn deduction. So these additional components can be pulled in as part of that now. So that's the update we made there, and it's part of providing, or the ability to provide, a key information document, which is one of the stipulations of IR35. So that functionality is now in the system for when it's needed. The last point is just the update that's been made to the contact creation form, and that's in relation to the address field. So if I just show you how it behaves by default, and then I'll go through the additional option that's now available. So what was raised, ultimately when you're creating a contact and you advise the associated company, when you're selecting that company, it brings through the addresses associated with that company and defaults this to the primary address of that company against there. So what was raised was that it would be helpful if it didn't do that, because it was essentially creating a situation where contacts were always being allocated to the primary address when they should have been selected against a different address. So what there is now is that under global settings, there's now an option here for allocate primary company address by default when creating a new contact, and you can set that to no. And then what that will mean is that if I refresh this contact page or contact creation page even, what it will mean is when you are creating a contact and you assign a company, the address field is no longer selected. So obviously you can select the addresses from the drop down as you would, but ultimately the address field is not selected, and it's a mandatory field. So if you try to save it, it wouldn't save unless an address has been allocated. And so that's on the basis of this global setting being set to no. By default, it is set to yes, as that's the sort of default behavior. But that's the update we made there. As always, if you have any queries or feedback, please get in touch. I'll be keen to hear from you. Also, for those using Colleague 7, feel free to submit your enhancement requests via the support team or directly to me using the above email address. The next video will be the sprint plan for 20.04.01. And as always, that will contain a high-level overview on the items we intend to work on during that sprint. Hope you're all keeping well, and thanks for watching.